Your mind is not your friend. It's a wild animal, untamed, reactive, and addicted to comfort. If you don't learn to control it, it will control every decision, every emotion, every inch of your life. This audiobook is not entertainment, it's training. Training for discipline. Training for silence. Training for command over your thoughts. Because the truth is simple, if you don't master your mind becomes your master. And that's a prison most people never escape. Your mind is loud. It never stops talking. It tells you what to fear, what to want, and what to avoid. It tells you stories about why you can't change, why you're not ready, why it's not worth it. And most people? They believe every word. They live their entire lives as passengers in their own heads, letting their thoughts dictate every move, every emotion, every reaction, every failure. That's what it means to let your mind run the show. You have to see the truth. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who hears them. You are the one who decides what happens next. That's the key. The mind is a tool, not a master. It was built to serve you, not to own you. But when you stop controlling it, it doesn't go quiet, it takes control. It becomes the voice of fear, the voice of doubt, the voice that keeps you small. You've got to take the wheel back. You've got to interrupt the pattern. When a thought comes, pause. That's step one. Most people react immediately. They feel anxiety and chase comfort. They feel anger and lash out. They feel doubt and retreat. That's how the mind wins, by making you react instead of respond. You've got to learn the pause. The space between thought and action. That's where your power lives. When the mind says, "You can't handle this," you pause and respond, "Watch me." When the mind says, "You're not good enough," you pause and respond, "I'm improving every day." When the mind says, "This is too hard," you pause and respond, "That's why it matters." That's control. It's not about ignoring the mind. It's about mastering the conversation. You have a choice. Every single day, every single thought, every single emotion, you have a choice that hears the truth most people never face. Your mind is addicted to comfort. It wants the easy way. It wants safety, validation, and approval. And it will sabotage anything that threatens those things. That's why it argues when you try to grow. That's why it resists discipline, change, and silence. Because those things feel uncomfortable, and your mind hates discomfort. But growth lives in discomfort. Strength lives in discomfort. Freedom lives in discomfort. You can't train your mind to be strong if you keep feeding it weakness. You can't claim to want control and keep surrendering every time things get hard. Every time you skip the workout, every time you scroll instead of study, every time you let your emotions dictate your choices, you are teaching your mind that it's in charge. And the more it wins, the louder it gets. That's the trap. You give the mind control once, and it keeps taking more. You've got to break that cycle. Through discipline. Discipline is how you tell your mind, "I'm in charge." Discipline is how you reclaim authority. Wake up when you said you would, even when you don't feel like it. Speak with calm when your emotions want to explode. Stay focused when your attention wants to wander. That's how you prove who's boss. Every act of control weakens the old voice. Every act of focus rewires your mind. You want real-world proof? Look at soldiers under stress. They don't let panic lead, they let training lead. They've practiced control so many times that reaction becomes precision. That's mental mastery. That's not emotionless, that's emotionally trained. Your life deserves that same level of discipline. You can't lead your life if you can't lead your mind. You think you're tired? The mind says stop. You think you're scared? The mind says run. You think you've done enough? The mind says rest. And yet, every breakthrough you've ever had happened after you ignored that voice. The mind is a liar, a skilled, persuasive, emotional liar. And it only loses when you call it out. Here's what you do. Step 1, notice the thought. Step 2, name it. Step 3, move anyway. You feel fear? Say it, That's fear. The next, you feel doubt? Say it, that's doubt. The next, you feel lazy? Say it, that's resistance. The next, you have to act through it, not after it. Because if you wait for the perfect emotional state, you'll never act. You'll be waiting forever. Action builds control. Control builds confidence. Confidence builds calm. That's the order, not the other way around. This chapter is your wake-up call. Your mind has been calling the shots for too long. You've been reacting instead of responding. You've been chasing feelings instead of facts. You've been listening to fear instead of leading with clarity. It stops here. Starting today, you become the observer. You become the authority. You become the one who decides. Because the truth is simple, and it's worth repeating. You are not your mind. You are the one who controls it. From now on, your mind doesn't get to decide how you feel. You decide how you feel. Your mind doesn't get to decide how you act. You decide how you act. That's the transformation this book is here to create. You'll feel resistance. You'll feel the old voice trying to pull you back. That's proof you're growing. Smile when it happens. That's your sign. You're taking the wheel back. You're building control. And control, that's where freedom begins. So let's lock this in. Repeat this truth until it's carved into your thoughts. My mind is not the master. I am. My emotions do not rule me. I rule them. I control my focus. I control my reactions. I control my life. Say it. Repeat it. Live it. Every time you act with control, your life shifts toward strength. Every time you react with chaos, your life bends toward weakness. Choose strength. Choose control. Choose mastery. People hate that word, discipline. They think it means punishment. They think it means restriction. They think it means no fun, no freedom, no life. They couldn't be more wrong. Discipline is not a cage. Discipline is a key. It's the key to control. The key to peace. The key to power. You think freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want. That's not freedom. That's chaos. And chaos always comes with a cost. Because when you do whatever you want, your impulses run your life. Your emotions drive your decisions. Your comfort zone becomes your prison. That's not freedom, that's addiction dressed up as choice. Real freedom is the ability to do what must be done, whether you feel like it or not. That's the key. You have a choice. You can be controlled by your moods, or you can be guided by your mission. You can live by reaction, or you can live by command. You can serve your feelings, or you can serve your future. That's what discipline decides. Every time you hit snooze, every time you skip the hard thing, every time you say, "I'll do it later," you're making a decision, and that decision is shaping your life. Discipline is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about showing up when you said you would. It's about keeping promises, especially the ones you make to yourself. When you break those promises, you lose respect for yourself. And when you lose respect for yourself, you lose strength. That's why most people feel lost, not because life is unfair, but because they can't trust themselves to follow through. You want confidence? Earn it. Confidence comes from repetition. Confidence comes from showing up when it's uncomfortable. Confidence comes from doing the thing you said you would do, long after the mood left. That's the formula. That's discipline. Let's make it real. When you tell yourself you'll wake up at 5 a.m., and you do, your brain learns something. When I say it, I mean it. That's power. When you tell yourself you'll finish the workout, and you push through the pain, your brain learns, I don't quit. That's control. When you tell yourself you'll stay calm, and you stay calm even when you're angry, your brain learns, I lead my emotions, they don't lead me. That's freedom. That's what discipline builds, a track record of power. And that's what sets you free. You've been told discipline takes freedom away. But it's the opposite. The disciplined person owns their time. They own their focus. They own their energy. The undisciplined person? They're a slave to their impulses, to their phone, to their cravings, to every shiny distraction that calls their name. The disciplined person says no more than they say yes. And that no is not weakness. That no is strength. That no is power. Because every no to distraction is a yes to clarity. Every no to comfort is a yes to growth. Every no to chaos is a yes to control. You don't need their permission. You don't need motivation. You need a standard, a system, a daily code that says, I move with intention, not emotion. That's discipline. Here's what most people never understand. Freedom without structure collapses. Structure without discipline decays. You need both. Freedom means you can choose your path. Discipline means you stay on it, even when it's hard. That's why successful people seem boring to the undisciplined. They eat the same meals. They keep the same schedule. They repeat the same habits. But that repetition, that discipline, creates results. And results create options. Options create freedom. That's the paradox of life. You earn freedom through structure. You earn peace through repetition. You earn control through obedience, not to others, but to your own higher standards. Let's talk about the practical side. Discipline isn't built overnight. It's built through micro-decisions. Small wins stack daily. Here's how you start. Set a time-based rule. Pick one small thing and anchor it to time. Every morning at 7, I write for 20 minutes. Never break the chain. Missing one day is human. Missing 2 is a pattern. Don't break the pattern. Use discomfort as a signal, not a stop sign. The moment you feel resistance, it means you're entering growth. And here's the mindset. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start acting as if you already are. You won't always feel disciplined. But you can always act disciplined. Action comes first, feelings follow. That's the truth. The more you act disciplined, the more you become disciplined. It's a habit. It's a muscle. It grows when you use it. Some people call it boring. You'll call it peace. Peace is knowing you're in control. Peace is not wondering if you'll keep your word, because you always do. Peace is not fighting with yourself, because your actions already match your goals. Discipline simplifies your life. It removes noise. It removes doubt. It removes the chaos that kills progress. It's not about punishment, it's about power. The disciplined person doesn't chase motivation. They create momentum. They don't rely on willpower. They rely on systems. They don't talk about what they'll do someday. They prove it today. You have a choice. Keep negotiating with your weakness. Or decide that freedom comes through structure. That's the moment your life changes. Remember this. Every decision you make moves you closer to freedom or closer to slavery. Every excuse steals a little piece of your control. Every promise kept strengthens your authority over your own life. The choice is always yours. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Show up. Follow through. Repeat. That's the cycle of discipline. That's how you become unstoppable. And that's the truth no one tells you. Freedom isn't found in doing less. It's found in doing what matters without fail. So the next time your mind whispers, "This is too much," remind yourself, "No, this is what makes me free." The next time someone says, "You're too strict," remind yourself, "No, I'm focused." And the next time you're tempted to quit, remind yourself, discipline is freedom. Quitting is a cage. Keep saying it until it sinks in. Keep living it until it becomes your nature. You've just learned one of the most misunderstood truths about power. Freedom without discipline destroys itself. But discipline creates a freedom no one can take away. And that's the kind of freedom you want. Not the one that disappears when life gets hard, the one that grows stronger with every test. You've built the foundation. You're starting to command your thoughts. You're starting to build structure into your days. That's how control begins, through repetition, through focus, through standards that never bend. You've learned that discipline is not punishment. It's liberation. Now it's time to go deeper. Because if discipline gives you freedom, emotional control gives you peace. And that's where true mastery begins. You've built structure. Now you'll build calm. Let's move forward. Chapter 3. Emotions are messengers, not masters. Emotions are powerful, but they are not truth. They are signals, not commands. They are messages, not orders. You feel anger. You feel fear. You feel sadness, envy, doubt. Every emotion comes with energy. That energy is meant to inform you, not to enslave you. Most people never learn that. They think emotions must be obeyed. They feel something and they become it. They feel angry and they lash out. They feel scared and they run. They feel hurt and they hide. And just like that, they lose control. But you're not here to be average. You're here to master yourself. And that begins with mastering how you feel. You have a choice. That's the key. You can feel the emotion without following it. You can hear the message without letting it lead you. That's emotional control. That's real power. Let's make this simple. Your emotions are data. They tell you something about what's happening inside you. But they don't define you. Fear says, pay attention. Anger says, something feels unfair. Sadness says, something valuable has been lost. They're all signals. They're meant to be processed, not worshipped. When you obey your emotions blindly, you give away your power. When you observe them calmly, you gain insight. That's the difference between reacting and responding. That's the difference between chaos and control. You have a choice. Boys, think about this. Every bad decision you've ever made came from emotion, not logic. Impulse. Panic. Frustration. That's what ruins relationships. That's what kills opportunity. That's what destroys progress. Because emotion makes you reactive. And when you're reactive, you're weak. Strong people feel everything, but they act on principle, not emotion. They hear the noise, but they don't let the noise run the show. It's not about being cold. It's about being clear. You don't suppress emotions, you translate them. That's the skill. Here's what emotional mastery really looks like. You get angry, but instead of exploding, you analyze. You ask, what boundary was crossed? You turn the emotion into instruction. You feel fear, but instead of freezing, you focus. You ask, what risk am I not prepared for? You turn the emotion into preparation. You feel envy, but instead of resenting, you reflect. You ask, what does their success reveal about what I'm avoiding? You turn the emotion into motivation. That's mastery. That's growth. That's how you use emotion instead of being used by it. Here's the truth. You can't control what you feel, but you can control what you do next. And that's everything. You have a choice. You can act out your emotion, or act beyond it. You can let anger dictate your tone, or you can let awareness dictate your response. You can let fear stop your progress, or let courage carry you forward. You can let sadness drown your energy, or let gratitude redirect it. That's not denial. That's direction. You don't need to suppress emotion to control it. You just need to separate emotion from action. Feel first. Breathe second. Act third. That's the sequence. Let's go deeper. When emotion hits, pause. Just breathe. That pause is not weakness. That pause is the strongest move you can make. Because in that space, you shift from reaction to reflection. From impulse to intention. That's the power of the pause. When you pause, you see the emotion for what it is, temporary energy. And energy can be redirected. That's the secret no one teaches you. You don't need to kill emotion. You need to convert it. Turn anger into drive. Turn fear into focus. Turn pain into purpose. That's what high performers do. That's what mentally tough people live by. They don't wait to feel right. They use whatever they feel to do what's right. That's emotional intelligence. That's leadership. You want a real-world example? Think of a firefighter running into a burning building. You think they feel no fear? Of course they do. But fear becomes fuel. It sharpens the senses. It keeps them alert, but not paralyzed. That's not the absence of emotion. That's the presence of control. Or a surgeon performing under pressure. They can't afford panic. They feel it, but they don't feed it. They operate with discipline. Because lives depend on it. So do you. Your life depends on your ability to operate with clarity, even when your emotions want chaos. That's mastery. Let's make this practical. Here's how to train emotional control every single day. Name it. When an emotion hits, don't drown in it. Label it. Say it out loud. That's anger. That's fear. That's guilt. Naming separates you from it. Pause and breathe. Take 10 slow breaths before you act, reply, or decide. Breathing resets the nervous system and gives your mind back its authority. Ask the question, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What does it want me to protect, fix, or understand? Choose the action, not the reaction. Choose the action that aligns with your mission, not your mood. Repeat daily, because emotional control is a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it gets. That's how you train yourself to lead your emotions, instead of being led by them. You have a choice every day, to live by reaction or to live by reason, to let emotion decide or to let clarity command. Emotion will whisper. It will push you. It will tempt you. But it will never force you. You decide who you are. You decide what you do. You decide what wins, the message or the master. That's the line between weakness and wisdom. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, stop and remind yourself, this is not me, this is a message. This is energy, not identity. I control what happens next. That's the script of power. That's how you take your mind back. That's how you stop the emotional storms before they control your life. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about translating it into strength. You don't need to feel less, you need to lead better. That's the difference. That's the standard. And the moment you understand that, your world changes. You stop being thrown around by how you feel, and you start using emotion as a compass, not a chain. That's the level most people never reach, because they never stop long enough to listen, to learn, to lead. But you're not most people. You're building control. You're building discipline. You're building freedom. You're learning to listen without obeying, to feel without following, to command without collapsing. That's what separates the powerful from the reactive. That's what emotional mastery looks like. You've now learned how to use emotion as energy, not as a cage. You've learned to pause, process, and redirect. You've learned to turn noise into knowledge. You're not reacting anymore, you're responding. And that's what real control feels like. You've mastered your emotions. Now it's time to master your environment. The noise, the chaos, the distractions that try to steal your focus. Because emotional control means nothing if your attention is weak. And in the next chapter, you'll learn how to build unbreakable focus, no matter what. Get ready. Chapter 4. Stop chasing motivation, build momentum. Motivation is a liar. It whispers to you when life is easy and disappears when things get hard. It's loud when you feel good. It's silent when you need it most. That's why the successful don't chase motivation. They build momentum. Motivation is emotion. Momentum is movement. And you can control movement, even when you can't control emotion. That's the key. Listen carefully. Motivation makes you wait for a feeling. Momentum makes you act despite the feeling. Motivation says, I don't feel like it. Momentum says, do it anyway. Motivation is a spark. Momentum is the engine. One fades. The other compounds. You have a choice. You can keep waiting to feel ready, or you can start and become ready through action. That's the truth nobody wants to hear. You don't need to feel good to begin. You need to begin to feel good. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. Let's get real. Most people spend their lives waiting for a mood that never comes. They tell themselves they'll start when they feel inspired. But that day never arrives. They're slaves to motivation, junkies addicted to a short burst of emotional high. You're not one of them. You're building discipline. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. Discipline just acts. You wake up tired? You work. You feel unmotivated? You move. You doubt yourself? You do it anyway. That's how you build momentum. Momentum doesn't care about your feelings. It cares about your consistency. Understand this clearly. Momentum is built on repetition. The small, boring, invisible actions you repeat every single day. You don't rise to the level of motivation. You fall to the level of your habits. That's the truth. Every rep in the gym, every page you read, every hour of focus you fight to keep, it all stacks. That's how momentum grows. At first, it's heavy. like pushing a car stuck in the mud. It doesn't move easily. It resists. But the more you push, the lighter it gets. Until suddenly, it rolls. That's momentum. It rewards persistence. It punishes hesitation. You have a choice. Stop pushing because it's hard, or keep pushing until it's unstoppable. That's the difference between average and elite. Here's the formula. Action, repetition, momentum, discipline, freedom. Most people never make it past the first step. They want freedom without repetition. They want success without grind. They want to feel ready. But feelings are fragile. They break under pressure. Momentum doesn't break, it builds. Let's talk about how to build it. Step 1. Lower the barrier. Don't aim for perfection, aim for movement. Start small. Start ugly. Start tired. But start. You don't build momentum by thinking. You build it by doing. 5 push-ups lead to 10. 10 minutes of focus leads to an hour. 1 day of discipline leads to a lifetime of mastery. Small steps compound. That's how greatness grows. Step 2. Respect the streak. Never break the chain. If you said you'll show up, show up. Even if it's weak. Even if it's short. The power isn't in the size of the action, it's in the continuation of it. The streak builds identity. Identity builds belief. And belief fuels discipline. That's momentum. Step 3. Use friction wisely. Don't make it easy to quit. Remove escape routes. Block distractions. Make quitting hard. That's how you train your mind to push through resistance. Step 4. Trust the process. Momentum doesn't reward instant gratification. It rewards commitment. You won't see results tomorrow. You might not see them next week. But they're coming. Every disciplined act is a deposit into your future. And the interest compounds quietly until it explodes visibly. That's the law of momentum. Here's the problem with chasing motivation. It creates a dependency. You start believing you need to feel good to perform well. That's weakness disguised as inspiration. You don't need to feel inspired to act. You need to act to earn inspiration. That's the reversal. That's the secret. The disciplined don't rely on emotion. They rely on execution. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You don't need the right vibe. You just need one thing, movement. Because once you move, clarity follows. Confidence follows. Momentum follows. Action creates energy. Energy sustains action. That's the cycle you must protect. Let's get tactical. Here's what you do when motivation dies. 1. Shrink the task. If you can't run 5 miles, run 1. If you can't study for 2 hours, study for 10 minutes. Make it impossible to fail. 2. Anchor your day with ritual. Do the same small act every morning, something that signals, I'm in control. Cold shower, journal, workout, food. Rituals build rhythm. Rhythm builds momentum. 3. Focus on process, not progress. Progress is external. Process is internal. Progress is what others see. Process is what you do when no one's watching. Stay loyal to the process. That's how you stay in motion when results are invisible. 4. End your day with gratitude, not guilt. Reflect on what you did, not what you missed. Because momentum feeds on forward focus, not self-punishment. You build tomorrow's energy with tonight's perspective. That's how professionals think. You have to understand, motivation is a spark. It's nice when it's there. But if you depend on it, you'll die waiting. Real growth starts when the spark is gone and you're still showing up. That's the threshold between amateurs and masters. It's not about hype. It's about habit. You don't get disciplined by inspiration. You get disciplined by repetition. You don't get powerful by emotion. You get powerful by execution. You have a choice. Stop chasing a feeling. Start creating a force. That's how you win. Every day you move, you gain ground. Every day you show up, you shift your identity. You stop being someone who tries and become someone who does. That's transformation. That's momentum. You don't need motivation anymore, because movement is motivation. The more you act, the more capable you feel. The more capable you feel, the more consistent you become. The more consistent you become, the stronger you grow. That's the loop of greatness. Don't break it. Don't wait. Just move. You have a choice, right now. To wait until you feel ready, or to act until you become ready. That's the difference between dreamers and doers. Between talkers and builders. Between those who want success and those who earn it. Stop waiting for motivation. Start manufacturing momentum. You don't need to light the fire every day, you just need to keep it burning. That's discipline. That's control. That's freedom. You've learned to act without emotion. You've learned to move without motivation. Now it's time to learn something even deeper: how to stay calm, centered, and strategic in a noisy, chaotic world. Because momentum means nothing if your mind is scattered. You mastered action. Now it's time to master silence. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Stillness. The world is loud. Every second, something is fighting for your attention. Your phone. Your fears. Your feet. Noise everywhere. Constant motion. Endless distraction. And because of that, most people never sit still long enough to hear their own mind. They mistake movement for progress. They confuse noise for growth. They run, but they don't advance. That's why stillness is a weapon. Stillness is power. Stillness is control. When you master stillness, you stop reacting and start responding. That's the key. Stillness isn't weakness. It's not passivity. It's precision. It's the ability to slow down in a world addicted to speed. It's the ability to pause before you act, think before you speak, and observe before you decide. You have a choice: to let the chaos of the world dictate your emotions, or to stand firm in silence and rule yourself. That's the discipline of stillness. Let me make something clear. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. Stillness means being in control while doing everything. It's calm in motion. It's peace under pressure. It's clarity in chaos. Stillness is when the noise gets louder, but your mind gets quieter. When the world panics, but you plan. When others react, but you remain centered. That's mastery. Every powerful person you admire, the leaders, the warriors, the thinkers, they all share this one trait. They move slow in chaos. They think clear in conflict. They remain calm when everyone else loses composure. That's not luck. That's trained stillness. They've practiced silence. They've practiced self-control. They've practiced not reacting to every emotional impulse that screams for their attention. You can train it too. You must. Because without stillness, you can't lead yourself. Without stillness, you can't control your mind. And if you can't control your mind, it will control you. That's the truth. Stillness starts with awareness. You have to see your thoughts before you can separate from them. You have to notice your triggers before you can neutralize them. Most people don't see their thoughts. They become them. They feel anger, and they are anger. They feel fear, and they are fear. But the disciplined mind watches emotions rise and fall without grabbing onto them. That's the power of stillness. It's the distance between you and your reaction. The space between impulse and response. That's where freedom lives. That's where mastery begins. So, how do you build it? Step 1. Create silence on purpose. Every day, take 5 minutes. No music, no scrolling, no input. Just breathe and observe. You'll notice how loud your thoughts are. You'll notice how uncomfortable it feels to be alone with yourself. That's the training. Sit in that discomfort. Don't run from it. That's how you build strength of focus. The mind that can't sit in silence will never handle stress in noise. That's the truth most people avoid. Step 2. Control your reactions. Don't respond instantly. Don't reply when you're angry. Don't act on the first impulse. First, breathe. Then choose your move. Because every reaction costs you energy. And energy is the currency of control. You have a choice: to spend it on emotion or invest it in precision. The disciplined invest. Step 3. Detach from outcomes. Stillness is impossible if you're constantly chasing approval, validation, or victory. You can't be calm when your worth depends on a result. Detach. Detach from needing to win every battle. Detach from needing to prove yourself. You don't need their permission. You don't need their praise. You just need peace. Stillness gives you power because it removes the need for external control. It teaches you to operate from stability, not from seeking. Step 4. Observe without judgment. When something happens, don't label it as good or bad. Just watch. Analyze. Then decide. That's what the disciplined do. They don't rush to emotional conclusions. They pause long enough to find clarity. Because clarity leads to effective action. And effective action builds results. It's not about speed. It's about precision. It's not about noise. It's about awareness. That's the power of stillness. Think of your mind like water. When it's turbulent, you can't see your reflection. But when it's calm, everything becomes clear. That's what stillness does. It allows you to see truth as it is, not as your emotions distort it. You stop reacting to illusions. You start responding to reality. That's maturity. That's leadership. That's mastery. And here's the paradox. The more you practice stillness, the faster your life moves forward. Because decisions get sharper. Focus gets deeper. Execution gets cleaner. When your mind is still, your direction is strong. When your thoughts are calm, your actions are effective. Stillness isn't slowing down, it's aligning down. You move with purpose, not panic. You act with clarity, not chaos. That's the shift. That's the transformation. The world will always try to pull you out of your center. Social media thrives on your reactivity. The system profits from your distraction. People feed off your attention. Every ping, every argument, every notification, they're all designed to break your stillness. Don't let them. You have a choice: guard your peace or give it away. Every time you react, you hand your power to someone else. Every time you pause, you take it back. That's the game. That's how you win. Stillness is self-ownership. It's you saying, "No one decides how I feel but me." That's strength. That's freedom. Let's get practical. Tomorrow morning, before you touch your phone, sit for 5 minutes. Breathe deeply. Listen to your mind without judging it. Throughout the day, notice moments when you feel triggered. Pause before reacting. Count to 3. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Most of the time, it's not. And every time you choose silence over reaction, you build another layer of strength. Every pause is a rep. Every calm response is a win. That's how mental control is trained, repetition, not perfection. You have a choice. Keep letting the noise own you. Or build the stillness that centers you. Stillness doesn't mean you stop fighting. It means you stop fighting yourself. It's the pause between action and reaction. The calm between storms. The clarity between thoughts. Stillness is control. Stillness is awareness. Stillness is power. That's the discipline you must master. You've learned to move without motivation. You've learned to act without emotion. Now you've learned to pause without fear. That's evolution. But there's one more layer, the outer expression of all this inner work. The quiet strength that shows up in every decision, every tone, every posture. Because control isn't only about what happens inside you, it's also about what you project to the world. You've mastered silence. Now it's time to master composure. Chapter 6. The Power of Controlled Presence. When you walk into a room, you say something, even if you never open your mouth. Your posture speaks. Your eyes speak. Your energy speaks. Before you talk, the world has already decided how much to listen. That's the power of presence. And here's the truth. You can't fake presence. You can't perform it. You build it. From discipline, from self-control, from stillness. That's the key. Presence isn't about noise. It's not about dominance. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. Presence is about control. Control of your body. Control of your attention. Control of your energy. When you have control, people feel it. When you don't, they feel that too. You have a choice, to let your presence scatter with your emotions, or to ground it with your discipline. That choice defines your power. Presence begins with awareness. Most people move through the world distracted. They walk fast. They talk fast. They fidget. They rush. They think motion equals confidence. It doesn't. True presence moves slow. True presence doesn't rush to fill silence. True presence is calm enough to let tension breathe. That's what draws people in, not what you say, but what you don't say. Stillness, control, and composure. That's authority. Controlled presence is built from the inside out. You can't hold eye contact if your mind is unstable. You can't project calm if you're anxious for approval. You can't appear grounded if your emotions own you. That's why every external signal of power starts with internal mastery. It's not about pretending to be confident. It's about becoming unshakable. When your inner world is disciplined, your outer world reflects it. That's the secret most people miss. They work on image, not integrity. They work on performance, not presence. But presence isn't an act, it's alignment. Your words, your posture, your breath, your energy, all synchronized under control. That's real power. So, how do you build controlled presence? Step 1. Slow down your movements. Move with intention. When you enter a room, don't rush. When you speak, pause before words. When you act, do it with purpose. Slowness signals certainty. Certainty commands respect. You have a choice, to react impulsively or to move intentionally. Choose intention. That's how control looks. Step 2. Control your breathing. Your breath is your anchor. When you breathe shallow, you send your body a message, I'm anxious. When you breathe deep and steady, you signal, I'm calm. I'm in control. Every leader, every warrior, every master you admire, they've trained their breath. Because breath controls body. And body controls energy. If you can control your breathing under pressure, you can control your presence anywhere. That's the key. Step 3. Guard your energy. Don't give it away cheaply. Not everyone deserves your attention. Not every argument deserves your emotion. Protect your presence like currency. Because it is. Your energy is how people experience you. If you scatter it across every opinion, every distraction, every reaction, you lose power. Control isn't silence. Control is selective engagement. You don't need to attend every battle. You don't need to prove yourself to every critic. You don't need their permission to stay composed. That's controlled presence. It's the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't need to explain. Step 4. Own the space you're in. Whether you're alone or in front of a crowd, claim it. Not through arrogance. Through certainty. Stand tall. Feet grounded. Shoulders back. Head level. Eyes forward. Body language is the first language of power. And here's the truth. If your posture collapses, your mind follows. If your body projects weakness, your confidence drains with it. Control your stance. Control your gaze. Control your tone. When you own your physical presence, you own the room. Controlled presence is not about intimidation, it's about influence. People trust calm energy. They follow those who radiate certainty. The leader who panics loses followers. The leader who stays composed inspires them. That's why presence isn't cosmetic, it's contagious. Your calm becomes their calm. Your focus becomes their focus. That's real leadership. That's real impact. Understand this. Presence doesn't come from trying to impress. It comes from being unimpressed. You don't need validation. You don't need approval. You don't need to prove value. You are value. When you stop chasing attention, attention starts chasing you. That's the paradox of presence. It's not about reaching out, it's about drawing in. You don't pull people with effort. You attract them with alignment. When your energy, words, and actions move in the same direction, people feel it. That's the magnetism of self-control. Here's what kills presence. Over-explaining. Overreacting. Overcompensating. Every time you justify yourself, you leak authority. Every time you raise your tone to prove a point, you lose ground. Every time you chase validation, you forfeit respect. Stop explaining. Start embodying. Your presence should make your point for you. That's the level of control you're aiming for. Let's get practical. Every day, practice micro-stillness. Before you enter a conversation, pause for one deep breath. Before you respond, count to 2 in silence. Before you act, visualize the outcome you want. Those seconds of pause separate amateurs from professionals. They separate emotional from intentional. That's controlled presence, the ability to stay centered while everyone else scrambles. And here's the beauty. The more you practice it, the less effort it takes. Because presence is a muscle. And like every muscle, It grows through repetition. You build it every time you stay calm under pressure. Every time you listen more than you speak. Every time you choose poise over panic. That's the training. Controlled presence is your shield in chaos. It's your anchor in storms. It's your silent weapon in a world that rewards noise. When others rush to speak, you observe. When others react, you calculate. When others lose control, you stay grounded. That's not weakness. That's mastery. You have a choice, to blend into the noise, or rise above it with calm command. Choose control. Choose stillness in motion. Choose presence with purpose. That's how you lead. That's how you dominate without shouting. That's how you earn respect without asking. Presence is not built overnight. It's earned, one decision, one breath, one silence at a time. And once you have it, everything changes. People listen differently. Opportunities appear differently. Life feels different. Because the world responds to those who control themselves. That's the power of controlled presence. You've learned to hold your ground internally. You've learned to project control externally. But there's one battlefield left, the one most people ignore. It's not about the world around you. It's not about the people you face. It's about the thoughts you feed. You've mastered your energy. Now it's time to master your inner dialogue, the voice that shapes your entire reality. Chapter 7. Reprogram your inner voice. There's a voice inside your head. It talks all day. It judges. It doubts. It complains. You know that voice. It tells you you're not ready. It tells you to take it easy. It tells you what could go wrong. That voice is not your enemy, but it's not your master either. The problem is, you've been listening to it like it's the truth. It's not truth. It's conditioning. That's the key. You've been programmed since you were young, by parents, by teachers, by society. They told you to stay safe, to avoid failure, to play small. Those messages became the code your mind runs on. And now, every time you try to step forward, that old programming kicks in. It says, don't embarrass yourself. It says, you're not good enough. It says, who do you think you are? But here's the truth. That voice isn't your limit. It's your test. You have a choice, to obey it or to rewrite it. That's where your power begins. Your inner voice shapes your reality. You can't outwork a mind that's working against you. You can't build discipline on self-doubt. You can't build confidence on self-criticism. Everything starts with what you tell yourself. You don't rise above your inner voice, you rise through it. You don't silence it, you reprogram it. That's the work most people never do. They change their habits but not their thoughts. They set goals but sabotage them internally. They talk about mindset, but never master the dialogue that runs 24/7 inside their head. That's why they stay stuck. You want transformation? Start here. Change the language you use with yourself. When that inner voice says, I can't, respond, I'll learn. When it says, I'm not ready, respond, I'm becoming ready. When it says, this is too hard, respond, good, that means it's worth it. You don't need silence. You need direction. The mind will always speak, so teach it a new script. That's the discipline of mental control. Listen carefully, your inner voice mirrors your standards. If you tolerate weak talk, you'll live a weak life. If you demand strength, your thoughts will evolve to match. You can train your inner voice the same way you train your body. Repetition, consistency, intensity. That's the key. Here's how you start. Step 1, awareness. Most people don't even hear their own inner dialogue. It runs in the background, shaping behavior silently. So start catching it. Notice when your mind drifts into negativity. Notice when it starts predicting failure. Notice when it talks to you like an enemy. You can't change what you won't confront. Awareness is the first act of rebellion. Every time you catch the voice, pause. That pause is power. That's you interrupting the code. You have a choice. Continue the old loop, or rewrite the next line. Choose to rewrite. Step 2, redirection. Don't argue with negative thoughts. They grow stronger when you fight them. Redirect them. If your mind says, I can't handle this, say, I've handled worse. If it says, I'll fail, say, then I'll learn fast. If it says, I'm tired, say, good, I'm still moving. This is how you flip weakness into power. Not by suppressing it, by converting it. That's mental alchemy. That's emotional discipline. You don't need their permission, not even your mind's. You command it. Step 3. Repetition. One correction isn't enough. You've spent years programming weakness. You'll need weeks, months, maybe years to program strength. That's okay. Every repetition matters. Every time you flip a negative into a positive, you rewire your brain. Every time you refuse to believe a limiting thought, you build confidence. That's how transformation happens, one inner correction at a time. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. Understand this. Your inner voice will always reflect what you feed it. Feed it fear, it will echo doubt. Feed it purpose, it will echo confidence. Feed it chaos, it will echo confusion. You have a choice. What will you feed it today? You can't control every thought that enters your mind, but you can control which ones you entertain. You can't stop the storm, but you can decide whether to step into it. That's control. That's mastery. Reprogramming your inner voice isn't about false positivity. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about telling the truth, the stronger truth. You're not powerless. You're not broken. You're not behind. You're learning. You're building. You're growing. That's the truth your inner voice must repeat until you believe it. Here's a simple exercise. Every morning before you touch your phone, speak power into your day. 3 sentences. Unshakable. I am in control of myself. I am stronger than my emotions. I am building discipline daily. Say it out loud. Because words create worlds. The first voice you hear each morning shouldn't be fear. It should be command. That's how warriors start their day. That's how winners stay centered. Now, let's talk about the hardest part, relapse. Yes, you'll fall back into old thinking. Yes, the voice will try to pull you down again. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means you're rewiring. You don't erase decades of conditioning overnight. You replace it line by line. So don't quit the process just because it's slow. Every day you resist the old voice, you weaken it. Every day you choose the new voice, you strengthen it. That's the invisible grind of self-mastery. No applause. No trophies. Just inner evolution. That's real work. Listen, your mind can be your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. But it can't be both at once. You have to decide what role it plays. You have to take control of the conversation happening inside your own skull. Because if you don't lead your mind, it will lead you straight back into fear, comfort, and mediocrity. You have a choice. Every thought, every day, lead your mind. Command your focus. Discipline your dialogue. That's how you build the mental toughness that outlasts emotion. That's how you create unshakable inner power. You don't rise by silencing the inner voice. You rise by teaching it new truths. Truths like, I am not my fear. I am not my past. I am not my excuses. You don't need to feel confident. You need to speak confidence until it becomes real. You don't need to feel strong. You need to act strong until your mind catches up. That's how reprogramming works. Action first. Belief follows. That's the discipline of transformation. Remember this. The strongest people you know, they've all mastered their inner voice. They still feel fear, but they don't feed it. They still doubt, but they don't obey it. They choose. Every day. You can do the same. You must do the same. Because no strategy, no book, no motivation will ever replace the power of your own internal command. That's your foundation. That's your control center. Master it, and you become unstoppable. You've learned to control your emotions. You've learned to master your presence. Now you've learned to reprogram the voice that drives both. But there's one more level of mental toughness, the ability to stay steady when everything collapses around you. The power to move forward through pressure, pain, and chaos, without breaking. That's the ultimate test of control. Chapter 8. The strength to endure. Everybody wants strength, until they realize what strength actually demands. Strength isn't built in comfort. It's built in endurance. Endurance means staying when you want to quit. Endurance means showing up when it doesn't feel good. Endurance means taking another step when the world tells you to stop. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. They want motivation. They want energy. They want quick wins. But life doesn't care about how you feel. Life tests your endurance. Life asks, can you keep moving when it hurts? And your answer defines who you become. You have a choice. To quit or to continue. That's the key. Listen carefully. Endurance is not just physical. It's emotional. It's mental. It's spiritual. It's the ability to stay grounded while everything shakes. It's the ability to keep calm when nothing is working. It's the ability to trust your process when results are nowhere in sight. That's endurance. Anyone can act strong for a day. Anyone can stay focused when it's easy. But the ones who win, they endure the seasons of silence. When no one claps. When no one believes. When progress feels invisible. They stay. They persist. They endure. Understand this. You don't grow in the moment of success. You grow in the moment of struggle. Endurance is the training ground for greatness. It's not about talent. It's about time under pressure. Pressure builds diamonds, not because they're special, but because they stay in the fire long enough. That's the key. So when life feels heavy, when the grind feels endless, stop thinking something's wrong. It's not wrong. It's working. The pressure is the process. You must develop what I call quiet endurance. Quiet endurance is when you keep showing up, not for applause, not for recognition, but for discipline. You wake up tired, you go anyway. You fail, you learn, and you go again. You get rejected, you keep building. That's how warriors are made. Because endurance isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's not posted online. It's in the lonely repetitions. The unseen efforts. The days that feel pointless but aren't. Every act of endurance builds your foundation. Every time you refuse to give up, you're becoming someone unstoppable. That's what real strength looks like. Invisible, quiet, relentless. Now let's make this practical. How do you build endurance? It starts with perspective. Most people collapse because they mislabel discomfort. They call it failure. They call it unfair. They call it impossible. But the disciplined mind calls it training. The disciplined mind looks at the storm and says, this is making me stronger. The disciplined mind says, if I can survive this, I can survive anything. That's the mindset shift that changes everything. You can't control every hardship, but you can control how you interpret it. And that interpretation, that story you tell yourself, determines whether you crumble or grow. Here's the truth. Endurance is built one decision at a time. Every time you want to quit and don't, you build a layer of strength. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you build resilience. Every time you fall and get back up, you multiply your endurance. It's not about perfection. It's about repetition. You can't fake endurance. You earn it through the grind. So when your mind screams, I can't, you whisper, watch me. When you feel broken, you breathe and remind yourself, I'm still here. Because survival itself is proof of progress. You're not supposed to glide through life. You're supposed to fight for it. That's how meaning is built. Endurance also requires one more thing, faith in your direction. You can't endure something meaningless. You must know why you're suffering. That's what gives pain its purpose. Without purpose, pain breaks you. With purpose, pain builds you. That's the difference. So ask yourself, why are you enduring this? If the reason is strong enough, you'll keep going. If the reason is weak, you'll collapse. You don't need 100 reasons. You need one that's non-negotiable. One that says, no matter what happens, I finish. That's endurance. That's power. And yes, there will be moments you feel alone. Moments where you question if it's worth it. Moments where you want to walk away. That's the test. The world rewards those who keep going when it's no longer fun. When the reward is far away. When no one's watching. Because here's the truth, the grind doesn't owe you results. But it does guarantee transformation. You won't always see the payoff right away. But endurance changes who you are. It rewires your threshold for pain. It expands your capacity for patience. It upgrades your identity. You stop being a person who tries and become a person who continues. That's what separates the fragile from the focused. So how do you endure? by simplifying your mission. Stop thinking about forever. Think about the next rep. Think about the next hour. Think about the next sunrise. Because endurance isn't infinite, it's built moment by moment. You don't climb a mountain in one step. You take one more, then another, then another. You have a choice, to look at how far you have left, or to look at the ground you've already covered. Choose gratitude. Choose focus. Choose continuation. That's endurance. The reason most people quit isn't pain, it's perception. They believe the pain means they're losing. But the pain means you're adapting. The pain means you're building capacity. When you run, your muscles burn. Not because you're weak, but because you're growing stronger. The same is true for your mind. The discomfort of endurance is proof of transformation. That's the key. So don't curse the pain. Thank it. It's evidence that you're still in the fight. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll look back and realize the pain that almost broke you became the foundation that built you. The rejection, the failure, the fatigue, the waiting, all of it was working for you. All of it was shaping you into someone unshakable. That's what endurance does. It refines, not destroys. Let me be clear. Endurance isn't glamorous. It's not exciting. But it's the core of every strong life. The mind that endures becomes calm. The soul that endures becomes wise. The person that endures becomes unstoppable. You have that power. Right now. You don't need their permission. You don't need their applause. You just need to keep going. Even when it hurts. Even when it's silent. Even when it's slow. Because the longer you stay in the fire, the more unbreakable you become. That's not punishment. That's preparation. You've built discipline. You've reprogrammed your thoughts. And now you understand the secret of endurance, the strength to remain unshaken no matter what comes. But there's one more piece to total control. The ability to let go of what you can't control and focus your power inward. You've learned to hold the line. Now it's time to learn when to release it. Next, Chapter 9, Let Go or Be Dragged. You don't become unbreakable by avoiding pressure. You become unbreakable by walking through it, over and over, until it no longer owns you. Pain doesn't make you weak. Running from it does. You've spent too long trying to protect yourself from the very experiences that were designed to strengthen you. Every hardship, every failure, every disappointment, they were not punishments. They were preparation. Preparation for this moment. The moment you finally decide that nothing will break you again. That's the key. You decide. Unbreakable isn't a gift. It's a decision. When you stop reacting and start responding, you begin to reclaim your power. When you stop taking things personally, you begin to build inner armor. And when you stop needing validation from the world, you become a fortress. It's not about being cold. It's about being centered. It's not about arrogance. It's about awareness. You have a choice. Let life harden you or let it refine you. Being unbreakable doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you don't run from it. You face it. You use it. You grow through it. Every time something goes wrong, you have a moment, a pause between stimulus and response, where you decide, will I crumble or will I conquer? That's where the transformation happens. That's where mental toughness is built. Here's the truth. Life doesn't get easier. You just get stronger. Most people wait for the world to become kind before they commit to peace. They wait for others to change before they change themselves. That's weakness disguised as hope. Strength is built when you stop waiting. Strength is built when you take responsibility for your reactions, your habits, and your mindset, regardless of what's happening around you. That's the discipline. You show up even when it hurts. You stay focused even when it's boring. You keep moving even when no one claps for you. That's how the unbreakable are made. In silence, in repetition, in solitude. Let's make this practical. How do you become unbreakable? Start by mastering your reactions. Every time you're provoked, breathe. Every time you're tested, pause. Every time you're hurt, reflect before responding. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to match their energy. You need to maintain yours. That's how control is built. That's how strength becomes second nature. Next, detach from outcomes. You don't control everything. You don't control how people treat you, how the world perceives you, or how luck turns. What you do control is your attitude and your actions. The rest is noise. Detach from what you can't control, and suddenly, life loses its power to break you. Because nothing can break what doesn't cling. You have to stop expecting an easy path. Comfort is the enemy. Discomfort is the forge. Every time life gets hard, remember, this is where strength is carved into your character. This is where weak habits die. This is where the new version of you is formed, the one that doesn't flinch, doesn't fold, doesn't beg. When you're tired, remind yourself, you've survived worse. When you're doubting, remind yourself, discipline got you here, and discipline will take you further. When you're afraid, remind yourself, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the refusal to surrender to it. That's the mindset of the unbreakable. Listen, the world will test you. People will betray you. Plans will fail. Life will hit you in ways you never saw coming. You can let that define you, or you can let it refine you. The unbreakable person doesn't ask, why me? They ask, what now? They take the hit, adjust their stance, and move forward again, stronger, calmer, sharper. That's what discipline does. That's what emotional control does. That's what mental toughness does. It builds resilience into your DNA. You don't fall apart when things fall apart. You adapt. You rebuild. You keep going. You don't need the world to be fair. You just need to be focused. You don't need everything to go right. You just need to go on. That's how you win. Being unbreakable is about trust, not in others, but in yourself. You trust that no matter what happens, you'll find a way. You trust that you'll get up when you fall. You trust that even when you don't see the path, you'll create one. That's power. That's freedom. That's discipline. Stop running from resistance. Start respecting it. Stop wishing for peace. Start earning it. Stop asking for easier days. Start asking for stronger shoulders. Because the world doesn't need more fragile people, it needs more fortified ones. It needs people who stand tall when others collapse. It needs people who stay calm when chaos strikes. It needs people who understand that peace is not the absence of problems. It's the mastery of reaction. That's what being unbreakable means. Remember this, strength isn't built in the moments of success. It's built in the moments of struggle. You don't rise when everything is easy. You rise when everything hurts and you keep going anyway. You have a choice, to become harder, colder, and bitter, or to become wiser, calmer, and stronger. That's the key. Choose growth over reaction. Choose control over chaos. Choose discipline over emotion. That's how you become unbreakable. And when you do, when you've faced your storms and stayed standing, you'll realize something profound. You were never fragile. You were just unfinished. Every scar, every setback, every silent battle, they weren't proof of your weakness. They were proof of your evolution. You've earned this peace. You've earned this strength. You've earned the right to say, I bend, but I don't break. That's who you are now. Unbreakable, steady, disciplined. And as this journey closes, remember, this isn't the end. This is the beginning of your real life. The life where you no longer seek control, because you are control. The life where you no longer chase validation, because you validate yourself. The life where you no longer avoid pain, because you've learned to use it. You've mastered your fear. You've built your discipline. You've become unbreakable. And now, it's time to live like it,